Franchise tags are in, and Breece Hall is staying with the Jets. And Daniel Jones, an interesting tag designation, plus free agency less than a week away. We'll break it all down, talk about it. The Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital Live starts right now.
Let's go! It's time for the talk to you. Cause it's always coming to. And Boy Green is always on the scene. And we're gonna always bring it to you live streaming. So get ready. Get ready, cause here they come.
All right, we're here on a Wednesday, coming off franchise tag day yesterday. I don't know. I'll talk to you about this, Boy Green, but I was like, it's kind of uneventful, really. I mean, Breece Hall, of course, a big story because we cover the Jets so among our New York teams. You know, Daniel Jones, we were all talking about whether that thing was going to settle or not. But really, a lot of crickets in other places, not any, I guess really we were talking about the ones that were out there and that other teams just didn't need to franchise tag people. So sometimes that can be a little befuddling. Like, why isn't every team out there perhaps franchise tagging somebody? But I guess you have to be in the right situation. So those situations were resolved, and we will break them down and talk all about it. You feel like it was an uneventful day?
I don't actually. I get it with the overall number of tags not being a number that would grab people, but two things: the Jets pivoting to franchise tag, all the talk had been transition, so that was a startling change. And then the Colts not tagging Alec Pierce and transition tagging Daniel Jones, I think was a massive mistake. And we'll see if our special guest, who joins in a second,
Giants dilemma, right? Saquon and Jones, and which do you tag and which do you sign and do you do? Okay, we'll get into that whole thing. These are the tough decisions that can come back to haunt you. All right, we are presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals, NERPCNY.com, the fancy logo, Boy Green pointing to it right there. And today's video is brought to you by our friends at Northeast Roofing. So they will get a sole spotlight here today. All right, it is time to talk all things NFL. We do it with our NFL insider between the hash marks on Substack. It's the one, the only Matt Lombardo. What's up, Matt? How are you?
I'm great, boys. Hey, what a great time of year. This is one of my favorite weeks on the calendar. You have the franchise tag window closing, legal tampering about to begin. And, Lurch, I'm kind of in agreement here with Boy Green when it comes to the Alec Pierce situation, because it's one thing to play a game of chicken with Daniel Jones on the transition tag and all the teams that need quarterbacks, given the fact that he might not be fully healthy until week 3 or week 4. But you're kind of, unless you have the ink isn't yet dry, but it's signed to the contract with Alec Pierce. Think about these teams that have cap space and need a top wide receiver. The Titans with $94 million. The Raiders with $88 million and Fernando Mendoza coming in there. The Chargers with $84 million and continuously looking for new weapons for Justin Herbert. The Jets with $74 million looking for that number 2 weapon opposite Garrett Wilson. The market for Alec Pierce is going to be robust, and unless they announce some sort of long-term deal by the time this show is over, I think that's a really, really major risk by the Indianapolis Colts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, risk it is. Matt, one other thing, too, on the Jones thing. So they did the interesting thing, and we never see this typically with quarterbacks. I think this might be the first one ever. The transition tag, all right? This is the tag where other teams can now throw an offer sheet at Daniel Jones, and we know there are a few teams desperate for quarterbacks, including one over there. I know he doesn't have any interest personally in Daniel Jones, but maybe when you're a team without a quarterback, you should. And I frankly think that any team out there that needs a QB and has the cash should throw a fat offer sheet at Daniel Jones. And I'll tell you why. Number one, Indy's in a real spot, and they're going to have to sign this guy and match that offer sheet. So why not suck up their budget, right? While meantime, kind of throwing a rock in a pond and seeing, where it lands kind of thing. I mean, I think you could just be an annoying spectator, dare I say, on the side here because you have the money to offer. Now, of course, if it comes to fruition and you, dare I say, stuck with Daniel Jones, although some might not feel that way that don't have a quarterback right now, you've done something to hurt another team in the league. Give me your thought about that in this whole transition tag on Jones.
Yeah, I thought that if you were going to tag Daniel Jones, that you use the franchise tag, because before he got hurt last year, I thought that he showed you enough that he could be a top 15 or so quarterback that you could build around. And if they had used the franchise tag, you're talking about allocating the average of the top 5 salaries in the league at quarterback. But if a team did what you said and you suggested, Lurch, and you decide not to match the offer, the Colts will get 2 first-round picks to let him walk, whereas on the transition tag, it's the cheaper salary, the average of top 10. But if he walks, you go to Gotts. You get nothing. You get the empty bag for letting him walk. So, when I look at the Daniel Jones potential landing spots, the Arizona Cardinals come to mind for me, that if you want to go down that road, you have Mike LaFleur, who is, of course, Matt LaFleur's brother, as the offensive coordinator / head coach in Arizona. They're moving off of Kyler Murray. They have like $30 million in cap space. Go sign him to the offer sheet. You have nothing to lose. You might get a quarterback out of this that you could build around, or at least use as a high-price bridge for the next couple of years, with Marvin Harrison Jr. there, with a pretty damn good tight end in place there. So if I'm the Cardinals, I'm probably going all in on Daniel Jones in the next couple of days, at least making him a strong offer.
Now, Matt, Lurch said it, there's a lot of desperate quarterback teams out there, and Daniel Jones, prior to getting hurt, was playing magnificent football. But he did get hurt. He blew out his Achilles halfway through the season. Does that affect the market at all for one Daniel Jones, of people that are rushing? And this is why it goes back to me, why I think it was a mistake for the Colts to do this. I'm franchise tagging Alec Pierce, and I'm hoping that with Daniel Jones' Achilles situation, that teams aren't rushing to sign him the same way they may be Alec Pierce. So, let's start off just with the Daniel Jones element. Does his injury complicate his market, or because of all the desperation at quarterback, it doesn't affect it at all?
Oh, I think it absolutely complicates the situation and the negotiations, and it's at the very minimum, it's a conversation. But if you're a team that's kind of in that beginning of a rebuild mode, do you really care that he's going to miss 3 weeks if you're the Jets and you're probably a year away from meaningfully contending, and you don't have a better option at quarterback beyond this year? If you're the Rams and you have $40 million to spend, you have Matthew Stafford coming back, but who knows what Matthew Stafford is going to do beyond the 2026 season, and you're looking for that insurance policy anyway, do you really care that he's not going to be on the field for 3 weeks if you're getting him into the building and into Sean McVay's system and that kind of quarterback rehabilitation center? If you're the Steelers, do you really care if you're not sure whether Aaron Rodgers is coming back, but you believe you have this like 3 or 4 year window? I'll say this. If I were looking at the quarterback market, I'm much more likely to throw a boatload of money at Daniel Jones than I am at Kyler Murray, right? And unless I'm going to be swimming in the Malik Willis waters, I don't know that there's a better option out there. I'm not overpaying for Kirk Cousins. I'm not trading draft capital for J.J. McCarthy if I'm serious about winning in 2026. So I think the Colts really opened themselves up to an expensive game of chicken by not using the franchise tag while not having a long-term deal signed and in place with Alec Pierce. So Chris Ballard, I'm not quite sure what you're doing here, but if they wind up losing both, it could be a really, really rough offseason in Indy.
Matt, you just talked about those two guys, so let me circle back a little bit and get your opinion on both guys. I mean, Kyler Murray was obviously about to be cut. It's out there already. It's pretty clear that that's going to happen, so he'll be a true free agent, free to sign with anybody, and he'll be a cheap option because he still has guaranteed money on his contract out there in Arizona, so he's going to be very, very affordable. And then Malik Willis, who might not be as affordable, but is younger, has that upside, but has barely started games in the NFL. I still just don't know what this young man really is as a quarterback. Give me your evaluation of each of the two guys.
Yeah, I'll start with Malik Willis because he's a guy who I've had conversations with people inside the league. And from multiple executives, it's the combination of he's played a decent amount of football at Tennessee where it wasn't a great situation, not a great offense, not a great coaching situation. And then he goes into Green Bay with Matt LaFleur, with that quarterback whisperer mentality of a coach, with some real weapons around him. And there's a belief that you can judge Malik Willis off of what he did in Green Bay as what he is as a quarterback versus the disaster that he walked into in Tennessee, and then they just kind of gave up on him after something like 14 starts, or maybe even less than that. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but a very limited sample size. So I think that you're betting on the upside of Malik Willis coming out of the Matt LaFleur program, doing exceptionally well in that building, in that system, compared to a guy like Kyler Murray, who there are whispers in multiple buildings about the lack of a work ethic, about the lack of a commitment to football. You've seen the warts on tape, not being able to get on the same page with a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., who didn't just forget how to play football when he left Ohio State and fall into the doldrums of his first 2 seasons in the NFL. So, if I had my druthers and if I were making predictions, I think Malik Willis cashes in. There's that $30 million plus number that Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated floated a couple weeks ago. I think that he's likely to fetch somewhere in that neighborhood. Kyler Murray, I don't know if you get a deal in that first day of legal tampering like we saw last year with Sam Darnold. He might be one of those second-tier signings that we see a couple days or a couple weeks down the line.
How attractive is that piece of the puzzle that Manchild mentioned? Kyler Murray's owed $36.8 million in fully guaranteed money for the Cardinals. Whether he sits on the couch for a year or plays for a team, no matter what, he's getting that pile of money, which seems to indicate, according to a variety of insiders around the league, that he would play on the veteran minimum for $1.3 million, which I imagine, why wouldn't teams, besides all the very alarming reasons why you pointed out, besides those very alarming reasons, like, $1.3 million for a guy that, I'd assume would want to prove himself. And this would be a year that you could take a chance on him. And then maybe if it worked out very well, he could, cash in big time in 2027, either by whatever team signed him or a different team. Is there any intrigue there, or all the extracurricular activity with Kyler scaring people off?
I think that teams are pretty scared off by what they're hearing and what they've seen from Kyler Murray, but I'll throw 2 teams at you. If you're the Atlanta Falcons and you're not sure what Michael Penix Jr. is, you have $8 million in cap space, you have Drake London, you have potentially, you bring Kyle Pitts back on the franchise tag, you have Bijan Robinson. Who wouldn't bring Kyler Murray into that situation with Kevin Stefanski to see what you have in him for this year? If you're the Miami Dolphins and you're in salary cap hell and you're trying to navigate your way out of Tua Tagovailoa's contract and you're above the cap at this point, you're just looking for a quarterback. There are worse situations for Kyler Murray than going to Miami with Bobby Slowick, who did a really nice job in Houston with C.J. Stroud. There are a lot worse situations than a prove-it deal in an offense with Jalen Waddle, with Devon Achane, with a pretty decent play caller and quarterback whisperer as offensive coordinator. Those would be the 2 teams. And if the Colts somehow lose out on Daniel Jones, I could see Shane Steichen in that situation with Jonathan Taylor, with Tyler Warren, with maybe Alec Pierce, maybe not, with Michael Pittman, maybe not. I could see with that sort of a situation where you're Kyler Murray and you're walking into an offense with a really well-respected play caller and offensive mind as your coordinator with a decent supporting cast, those would be the places where I think there's a chance he could go and bet on himself, change the narrative, get some of the Arizona Cardinals stink off of him, and go into next season potentially as one of the more sought-after free agents.
Matt, let me follow up on this comment over here. Indy Jets is throwing this down. Malik Willis equals Matt Flynn, or might I throw a name more familiar to you, like Kevin Cobb? Is he one of those backups that everybody covets, but then once he gets into the full-time position of the franchise quarterback, it all goes south, and we go, oh, that's why he was a backup. That's why he wasn't playing. That's why that other guy was playing instead of him. Give me your thoughts.
Maybe, but, Malik Willis isn't going to beat out Jordan Love, right? I mean, Jordan Love is a guy that they were grooming in Green Bay for 2 or 3 years before he even saw the field. He's a former first-round pick, so he has that pedigree. I don't remember quite where Matt Flynn was drafted, but I thought he only had 1 or 2 really good starts, correct me if I'm wrong, in Green Bay before he cashed in. Malik Willis, at least you have a handful of starts over the past 2 years. I think that Willis, to me, you're evaluating him coming out of Green Bay and what he did there and what he did with a decent sample size rather than what you saw with him as a raw rookie out of the University of Liberty.
Aaron Rodgers, is it Steelers or bust? Is he totally coming back? Is he just retiring? Because there was the Vikings flirtations last year, but They apparently were too in love with JJ McCarthy, so they didn't want to do it. Now I imagine they're a lot, more out of love with JJ after what they just saw last year. So what's the latest on the Aaron Rodgers thing?
And can I just echo in this before you answer that question, Matt? I never thought that we'd ever in the NFL see anything worse than the Brett Favre, I'm retiring, I'm unretiring, I'm retiring. Now, this guy doesn't announce he's retiring. He just keeps everybody on pins and needles until the last possible second. It's annoying as heck, is what I wanted to say, Matt. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And if you're the Steelers, look how far that organization has fallen. You've allowed yourself for not one but 2 off seasons to be beholden to and held hostage by Aaron Rodgers. And he wasn't even that great last year. I mean, the numbers are what they are, and they were fine. But look at how that season finished for Pittsburgh. Look at how disastrous he was in that playoff loss to the Houston Texans. It really seems like for Aaron Rodgers, it's Pittsburgh or bust. And the Steelers have no business backing themselves into this Aaron Rodgers or bust corner when you look at some of the other names and the other options that are available to them in free agency, trading for a J.J. McCarthy. So you have at least a 2-year window on a guy on a rookie contract you can evaluate and just kind of see with a low risk, low, mediocre reward type of a contract. The Steelers, to me, they're almost in denial of how badly they need a rebuild. Yeah. And if I were the Steelers, I would get out of this mentality of being just nostalgic enough to build a defense that's just good enough to sneak into the postseason every year and win 9, 10, 11 games every single year. I would do whatever I need to do to get a young quarterback to build around. I don't think that Will Howard is that guy. Maybe J.J. McCarthy in a run-based system is that guy. Maybe you bring him in for 2 years, trade a 3rd-round pick to Minnesota for him, evaluate him. And if it doesn't work out, go draft one. Because if it doesn't work out, you're going to be drafting pretty high next year. Go get the quarterback. Hit the reset button. Don't continue to reset and revive this 45-year-old Aaron Rodgers where you have a built-in ceiling on what you're going to be this year and moving forward.
It was fascinating to me, too, just to touch on the Steelers for another minute here, Matt, and that is we saw that survey come out, where they rated all the teams and the Steelers rated incredibly low, all right? And it was interesting. The one thing that the Steelers scored high on was their former coach, Mike Tomlin. He was like a 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, whatever. He's right at the top of the standings. But then you looked at why the Steelers were so low near the bottom of the league, and it was ownership, facilities. I'm like, man, I always thought the Steelers were kind of, that stable organization that everybody loved, and it was a warm fuzzy. And then you see the players rate them, and they're like, this thing's crap, man. Total crap. Other than the coach who's gone, this thing stinks. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I've never been in the Steelers practice facility, but, I've seen how, people look at those report cards, and you have to remember it's the locker room and the facility of the practice facility that these players are grading, not the glitzy, glamorous, wide open, spacious stadium locker room with the mahogany benches with the padded seats in every locker and USB chargers and all the bells and whistles that the fans can walk through on these stadium tours and say, oh, wow, look at Acrisure Stadium's amazing locker room. Look at Arrowhead Stadium's amazing locker room. And then you look at the pictures of the practice facility, and it's like a couple of metal bars and a wooden bench as the locker. You know what I mean? So I've never been to the facility, but I can see why if you're not putting the same sort of investment, it always amazes me, right? Because you look at these major college football programs and like you have to push a button for their locker to open, and it's like got their image on there, and it says like, hello, Jim Lurch. Welcome into the Syracuse football orange facility. And it's all got all the bells and whistles and the training tub and everything. Mm-hmm. If teams didn't invest in the stadium locker room, invest in the practice facility locker room, I think that maybe they'd be graded a little bit higher than they are.
Which would make a lot of sense.
Remember, players spend 40 hours a week at the practice facility. They spend like 90 minutes in the stadium locker room every week.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point, and I appreciate you explaining that difference for people that may not understand it. And they're like, geez, what the hell's going on here with these players? Matt, let's start off with a player side. I know you've done some columns about this for Between the Hash Marks. Again, one of the fastest growing Substacks out there in the NFL universe. And I'm curious on which players do you believe that you're getting a sense on that are about to secure the bag? Again, we're 5 days away from the legal tampering period. A week from today will be free agency opening. Free agency officially opens a week from today at 4 o'clock. So, Matt, who are the players that are about to get the bag?
Trey Hendrickson, I think, is going to reset the pass rush market. I think he could fetch somewhere between $34-38 million annually. It's a great year to need a pass rusher. You still have Odafe Owe out there. You still have Joey Bosa is out there. Khalil Mack is out there. Some big name edge rushers. Then on the second tier, guys like Boy Mafe from the Seahawks, who just won a Super Bowl. Arnold Ebiketie looking for a change of scenery from the Atlanta Falcons. It's a great year to need an edge rusher. It's a great year to be a free agent edge rusher because I think those numbers are going to really rise. Tyler Linderbaum from the Baltimore Ravens, their starting center. I know the Ravens are putting on a full court press to re-sign Linderbaum, but don't sleep on the Chicago Bears in that market after yesterday. Drew Dalman, all-pro center, announces his retirement at age 27. He was really instrumental in the Bears helping cut Caleb Williams' sack total down from 68 as a rookie to 24 last year. Look for the Bears to spend big in the center market. And I think that when you look at the offensive skill players, Alec Pierce is going to cash in. I mean, he's going to get top tier, top flight wide receiver money now that he's not on that franchise tag, whether it's Indy or elsewhere. And one more name, Brandon Aubrey as a kicker. He's as automatic as they come. I think you're going to see some funny money thrown around, and I don't know if the Cowboys are going to be able to afford him after tagging George Pickens and whatever that deal turns out to be.
I love the kicker. I'll take me some Aubrey on the Giants. That sounds good. Speaking of the Giants, a couple of moves for the Giants yesterday that I want to ask you about, Matt. Number one, they cut their captain, Bobby Okereke. This was kind of expected, $9 million in cap space. And then we had this rumor about Kayvon Thibodeau, which could free up over $14 million in cap space. So give me your take on those moves and what the Giants are attempting to do here and how might they replace these guys, assuming one gets traded and the other one obviously getting cut.
Yeah, Jim, I spoke to some sources around the league last week for Monday's Four Downs column over at Between the Hash Marks, and the sense that I got was they're going to trade Kayvon Thibodeau, or at least they're going to try. They're fielding calls for Kayvon Thibodeau at the moment. That's according to a agent familiar with the edge rusher market. Talked to a couple scouts about some potential fits. Baltimore makes a lot of sense there. You think about the Ravens, they want to have that complimentary edge rusher opposite Nnamdi Madubuike, assuming they can bring him in or as a replacement. Second scout told me, look out for the San Francisco 49ers. Same deal. You look at Nick Bosa in place there. You need an insurance policy. It's becoming apparent on Bosa being healthy. And if you can put Nick Bosa and Kayvon Thibodeau along that same front seven, look out. They're going to pin their ears back and race after the quarterback. But Thibodeau is going to be one of these guys that probably has a decent market from a trade standpoint. But if you're the Giants, you have an all-pro in Brian Burns. You drafted Abdul Carter number 3 overall last year, and he showed you that he can be as disruptive as you expected. It's hard to get all three of those guys on the field at the same time, maximizing their potential and their disruptiveness. So I think Thibodeau is going to get dealt. And Bobby Okereke, great leadership player. I thought he tailed off a little bit from a production standpoint last year. At this point, new regime. John Harbaugh looking to get his fingerprints on the roster. Not surprising they prefer the cap space over bringing him back.
You like
Let me ask you about
and what he did at the combine, maybe making his way to number 5? Could he climb that high? I kind of like that young man after watching him jump and run and do all those things.
Yeah, if you're drafting another edge rusher, sure. I think that the way that that Harbaugh has talked about Caleb Downs on and off the record, the top rated safety, I think that's probably the move because, again, they have the 2 pass rushers that they're really high on who are really disruptive. They need to get down to the business of building out that secondary. You need the safety to replace what they had when they let Xavier McKinney walk out the building. You need more consistency at corner. It's a great year to need a corner. They could go out and sign Tariq Woolen in free agency and drop a real attitude, glue type of player who can be a lockdown corner. Or you can draft a cornerback early, too. It's a strong cornerback class. But I think that secondary is probably where the Giants are going to make some investments more so than the front 7.
And I don't know if we addressed this earlier, Matt. Max Crosby, what's the latest there?
Yeah, you look at the Chicago Bears, they're in the mix. I think they could be a top destination. It sure sounds like the Raiders are less done with Max Crosby than Crosby is done with the Raiders. That could just be juicing the market. That could be, trying to juice up a trade market for Max Crosby, but he seems to want out pretty badly. If they do move on, I think you're talking about the Chicago Bears in the mix there. You're talking about maybe the Detroit Lions, who are constantly looking for edge rush help. And I wouldn't rule out, and this is just me, this isn't any sort of reporting, this is just me kind of throwing speculation into the ether. The Eagles and Raiders could solve both of each other's problems. The Eagles could trade Max Crosby, the Eagles could trade A.J. Brown to the Raiders for Max Crosby. You figure out the pick swap, you figure out the dead money. A.J. Brown gets a change of scenery. You free up your offense not to funnel through A.J. Brown. He goes and becomes a top wide receiver option for Fernando Mendoza with Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty in that supporting cast. And the Eagles get a marquee edge rusher that they seem to be sniffing around on, whether or not they can bring Jalen Phillips back or not.
That's a good one. I like that one, Matt. I've never heard that one yet. And I like that one. That seems like a fit across the board. Makes a lot of sense.
I'll text Howie. I'll see what if he likes it as well.
Why not? Mekhi Becton back on the market. One of Boy Green's all-time favorites. So bring him back to the Jets, maybe. Thoughts on Mekhi Becton being out there again, if there are any?
Yeah, he's a guy who was a cap casualty for the Chargers. I thought he played reasonably well along an offensive line that just was hammered and besieged by injuries, especially to their top two tackles. I guess the concern with Mekhi Becton is how much of that year in Philadelphia, where he was at an all-pro level, one of the more important pieces along that offensive line, how much of that was Mekhi Becton reaching his potential and how much of it was just playing for Hall of Fame offensive line coach in Jeff Stoutland. Somebody's going to find out. Somebody's going to pay to find out. But, Mekhi Becton, if I'm the Baltimore Ravens and I'm looking for interior line help, which is a big need for them, I look at Mekhi Becton, I'd kick the tires there. If I were the Tennessee Titans trying to continue building around Cam Ward, I'd probably kick the tires there as well. And the 49ers seem to always be looking to upgrade their offensive line. I think he'll have a market. I don't think he's going to cash in.
All right, here's my last one, Matt, before we get you out of here. It's on the Breece Hall situation. He ended up being franchise tagged. There's still some out there that believe a tag and trade is still possible on the table. Others believe a long-term extension can be worked out. And Breece Hall's tweet, which I'll throw up here on the screen, he had an interesting, everyone has to go cryptic with their social media responses, obviously. Yeah, that is the way of the modern athlete here today. I think this is it right here. Let me throw
Who hasn't tossed up a cryptic breakup tweet, though?
Yeah,
who hasn't?
Isn't it great? So here it is. This was after Breece Hall was franchise tagged. He said, quote, "Always been the type to bet on myself. Been working. See y'all soon. Love." Finger crossed emoji. And people are saying that means Breece Hall will bet on himself and he will play out this year on the tag to try to get the bigger bag of money, that not take whatever extension offers are coming for the Jets and wait it all out and bet the Jets won't tag you again to work it that way. How does this all play out, Matt Lombardo?
Yeah, you and I spoke about this on your Sunday show a couple of times. I wouldn't have tagged Breece Hall if I'm the Jets, only because I don't know that I'm committing $14.5 million against the cap when I'm that far away from contending for a running back. But now that you've used the tag, if you're the Jets, I guess I would be shopping for a tag and trade type of a deal, but I don't even know what you're going to get with Kenneth Walker sitting out there as a free agent. If you're the Jets, maybe you let the Kenneth Walker market settle itself, and if the Kansas City Chiefs lose out on Kenneth Walker, you call Kansas City and say, hey, let's rework that trade we were talking about at the deadline. If Kenneth Walker goes to Kansas City, or he, signs to a running back needy team like the Titans or the Commanders or something like that, then I'd probably call Seattle and I'd say, hey, you just lost a 24-year-old Super Bowl MVP. I have a 25-year-old Breece Hall, not a whole lot of miles on those tires. What do you give me? Will you give me a third-round pick to replace what was a vital piece of your offense? But if I'm the Jets, I think I'm going to try to move him. I'm going to try to play it out on that tag if I can. And if I'm Breece Hall, I don't think that I'm going to sign a long-term extension because with an improved offensive line, as they're sure to build during the draft and with all the money they have in free agency, why not go bet on yourself and cash in next year?
Matt, last one for me, another guy that popped in the combine, and I just wonder how much he's popped up your draft board, Jeremiah Love. Give me your thoughts on him, and will Kansas City cash in at number 9, or is there no chance now that he had a good combine that he'll ever get there? And if Kansas City wants him, they're going to have to trade up to get him. I know the Giants are throwing a lot of, interesting thoughts out there, perhaps to lure Kansas City into a trade, perhaps. Give me your thoughts on that.
It's certainly smokescreen season, and Jeremiah Love, he did enough to light a fire. I'll tell you that. I mean, you can start a hell of a smokescreen off the workout and the performance that he had in Indianapolis. Look, he's potentially one of the 2 best players overall in this entire draft. He did nothing to move down those rankings for sure. It just comes down to what we talk about all the time, positional value. And if he's on the board at 5, if you're the Giants and you have Cam Scatterbo coming back, do you go and get Jeremiah Love, echoing drafting Saquon Barkley number 2 overall, albeit with different circumstances because you have the quarterback figured out long-term this time, which you didn't have with Eli Manning back in 2018? Or do you take the safety who provides more value, might improve your defense even more dramatically? And if you are the Chiefs, sure. But what do I have to lose to move up? Maybe toss an extra second-round pick to try and go up and get Jeremiah Love if I need him.
All right, Matt, before you go, please, a plug for Inside the Hash Marks. Tell people what it's all about, how they can be a part of it.
Lurch, come on,
between
Lurch.
The hash marks.
It's between not inside.
Not inside. Between. There's hash marks, and we're lining up between them. There's the direct link.
I'm just going to give up even trying. Sorry. I'm just going to give up.
That's all right. We got to sign you up for a subscription so that you can get it in your email. We'll get your email off there.
It's in your head and you can't get it out. It's just one of those. I can't get it out, man. I try. I can't get it out. Sorry.
That's all right. Between the hash marks, we had the Monday column every Monday, 4 downs with the biggest storylines inside the league, with sources weighing in on those and different features on current and former players. We have a mailbag every Friday where you can ask me your questions. I'll pose them to NFL executives, coaches, former players, top agents, get their insight and their answers to your questions on Fridays. And the Between the Hash Marks podcast every Tuesday, and now select Sundays in the offseason. It's the Between the Hash Marks interview podcast where I'm joined by a current player, a draft prospect, a former player for an extended conversation. This week we had on top Ohio State defensive tackle Caden McDonald was on the show. Last week we had on Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Rashid Shaheed as he gets ready for free agency. He's another one of those players who could cash in based on his performance in Seattle. So come check us out at Between the Hash Marks. Would love to have you. Take us for a ride as a free subscriber, make a full commitment and pay to join and support independent journalism. But either way, we'd love to see you in the huddle.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Always great having you. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it, boys. Talk to you then.
All right. There he is, Matt Lombardo. I'll never get it right, Boy Green. I think you ought to just do it for me from now on. I can't get it right. It's either inside or between. I screw that up, or I screw up hashtags or hash marks, or I mix and mingle them all together. It's just a hard one for me to get.
Here you go. We'll just start putting this sign up.
Yeah,
and
that's
again,
what
between the hash marks, not
before
inside.
I do it, right there. You just put it right there. Put it right there.
Okay.
Just put it there so that I can't mess it up.
Okay.
I need the prompt. I need the video prompt. I need the teleprompter, man.
Okay.
You know?
That's true. You're a TV guy forever.
Yeah, I'm a TV guy. I need that teleprompter, man, to make sure that I don't mess things up. So
again, a reminder to everyone in the audience: between the hash marks, not inside the hash marks. There you go.
I think inside would make a good name too. And why not hashtags instead of hash marks? I mean, I see it going a lot of ways.
Okay, I'll send that suggestion to Matt and see if he wants to change his entire brand.
Please don't do that. Okay, please.
All right.
Yeah. I think I've already hurt his feelings enough. We don't need to do that. So there you go. All right, let's take a break. I need one. I need to take a sip of water and maybe have a beer. All right, so take a break real quick here. Our sponsor today, we are presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals. You see them right above us. Fantastic. If you live in Fayetteville or DeWitt or the surrounding areas here in central New York, that's where they primarily do their business. Great for roof repairs and even better for putting a new roof on your house. Shingles, metal roofs, you name it. Great customer service. Go see our friends at Northeast Roofing Professionals, NERPCNY.com.
Finding the right local roofing company can be tricky. You don't want to hire the wrong roofers, or you could end up spending a fortune on repairs. The pros at Northeast Roofing Professionals can ensure your home is protected by a strong and sturdy roof. Locally owned and operated, over 30 years experience, free estimates, and competitively priced. Don't settle for an inexperienced roofing contractor. Turn to Northeast Roofing Professionals. Discounts for military and first responders. Reach out and let them put a sturdy roof over your head. NERPCNY.com. NERPCNY.com.
All right, we are back. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Please, if you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. We really love you to do that. You want to be right where Boy Green has put that graphic up. YouTube.com/at MC Show Digital. I know you can listen to our live programs from several portals, but if you are going to subscribe, you want to subscribe at that particular link right there. So go on over there and hit subscribe. And as you see below, we also have memberships available now. So if you want to support the channel, help us with the resources department, we'd love for you to be a supporter. You can join our VIP club, which we call the 12th Manchild. All right. As a matter of fact, I got it on my sleeve on my shirt here, Boy Green. There's our little
let me
logo.
go full screen.
Manchild. Very nice. Oh, yeah. Okay.
There it is. Yep.
All right. Really, really cool. And that is an homage to one of my old fantasy teams.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a pretty cool little moniker. So that's our little club. And if you want to become part of it, we'd love for you to do that. There are lots of cool special perks, including some cool emojis, and you get some videos in advance and all that kind of stuff. So please support the channel. We need you as much as hopefully you need us. So there you go.
Hey, real quick, Lurch. We are 5 subscribers away from 700. So again,
That's
you could be. Yeah, 100%. So again, for folks that are watching this right now, we have a couple hundred people in the room. Appreciate it. No matter where you're watching, Twitter, my YouTube channel, the MC Show Digital channel, hop on over and hit subscribe. Push us over the 700 subscriber mark. That'd be great. There's been some really nice growth on the channel, which we've appreciated.
Yeah. I mean, again, we've only been around about 7 months, but we're really, really proud of the people who have joined us, and hopefully we continue to grow our community. But yeah, 700, that's a nice round number. I like round numbers. We're approaching 700, and we're approaching 250,000 views in 7 months.
Wow.
So keep it rolling. Appreciate everybody who's contributed to that in any way, shape, or form. And remember all the different things that we kind of cover on this channel. Obviously, Jets, Giants, and Bills, that's kind of where we butter our bread, and we cover those 3 New York teams inside and out. But we do some other cool little side gigs as well. Syracuse sports, Syracuse basketball in particular right now. We're in season. There's a lot of controversy going around the program right now because they're struggling. Their head coach is on the very, very blazing hot seat these days. So we've been getting a lot of dialogue on that. And, of course, us both being here located in central New York and coming off the radio to create this digital product, we covered Syracuse sports the entire time we were on the radio. So we have a very, very good reputation, at least with our homegrown fans here in central New York, for covering Syracuse sports. So we're continuing to do that. And we've evolved into Survivor nuts. Boy Green and I, for many, many years, have actually covered Survivor on our radio show. And now we've brought it over to the digital world. And as a matter of fact, Wednesday is Survivor night, as you all know. So another show tonight. We are in season 50. Tonight is episode 2 of season 50. Already 2 people have been well, one's been voted off the island and the other had to leave the island due to injury. And so episode 2 is tonight, and we will have our regular recap show after the 90-minute episode tonight. So if you like a little late night and a little different vibe to the room, then it'll be myself, Boy Green, and Brett LaBelle, the former Survivor himself, who joins us for all of our Survivor post-game shows, or recap shows as we call them. And we do that. We'll start up a little after 9:30, probably about 9:40 tonight. We'll launch that show. We usually go for an hour or so, have a lot of fun. You can get in the comments. You can directly interact with Brett LaBelle, which is really cool. Again, he'll be with us throughout the entire season. And if you're interested in a little draft action, today at 1:30, we're doing our Survivor 50 fantasy draft. Boy Green, myself, and Brett. I'm doing this live because we had a little issue when we recorded.
And does it have to be live?
Yes, it will be. It's going to be live no matter what. 1:30, show up right here. And it'll be myself, Brett, and Boy Green. And you'll see some tiki torches around us as well for our Survivor-themed thing. And we will be selecting 3, or are we going to up it to
4? Definitely 4.
We're going to select 4 survivors each in a snake-style draft.
Yeah.
All right. And the one thing we do have to decide, Boy Green, before we get to 1:30 is Who's first? Who's second? And who's third? What's the order? We got to either draw the order or we got to pick the order.
Well, last season, for the first time ever, none of us picked the winner. I can't remember who was closest. Who was the final three? It was Savannah. Who else? And who else?
Savannah, Rizzo, and
no, Rizzo didn't make it. He lost in Final Four fire.
Oh, he did. He did.
So he didn't make it.
Boy, who were the final? Savannah.
So Sophie B, she made it.
Sophie, right? Sophie,
Okay.
Savannah, and who was the third person? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank, Boy Green. I don't know. For some reason I had it. It was Rizzo.
No, it definitely wasn't.
So it wasn't Rizzo. Oh, gosh. Well, you'll have to look that up, my friend. I'm sorry. I don't know that off the top of my head. But anyway, we will do our Survivor fantasy draft.
No, that's not right. All right. I gotta look it up now. God,
Good information.
the internet's not telling me right stuff. So.
Yeah, I hate when the internet gives you bad information, which it does a lot of times, folks. You got to double check your information always on the internet. Anyway.
Oh, it was Sage. Today. It was Sage. It's
it was Sage?
Okay. Yes.
Sage made it.
I didn't believe it or not. But she got roasted over the coals.
Now I remember her making arguments. She was never a factor. That's why we didn't remember. It's like Rizzo was more of a factor than Sage, even though he wasn't in the final three.
Right. So there
anyway,
you go. So Brett won because Sophie B made it to the final three. So I guess technically speaking.
Right. I guess so if we had to name a winner, but come on, that's weak. If we don't get the winner, there's really no winner. Come on.
Okay, we'll figure it out, I guess.
That has to be the way it is. No points for second place or third place. Come on, man. It's winner, chicken dinner.
Andy says, hey, let's just let the chat pick it. We can make it a poll and whoever wins the vote.
We could. I'll tell you what. You guys let me have pick number 1 in the snake draft last season. And remember, I took Matt, the bearded guy, who looked really good in the first couple episodes. Oh, my God. And then he was voted off like 2 episodes later. My number 1 pick, gone, out. Yeah. Didn't even hardly lasted in Survivor at all. So, and I have never picked the winner against you and Brett in our history, which goes back 10 years or, which is like 20 seasons. I mean, it's ridiculous how many times I've had 1 year, a couple of seasons ago when the Joe season, who was on Survivor 50 this year, I had 2 in the final 4 and I still couldn't make the cut and finish the deal. So just heartbreaking. I can't do it. So you guys might as well just give me the number 1 pick because I stink anyway. I never get the right Survivor when it comes down to it. So I think you should just give me the number 1 pick. After all, I'm last place, right? Shouldn't the worst team always get the number 1 pick in an effort to equal the playing field? I think we should. And Brett's always the best. This. Pick last. He's the best.
I'll let my strategy go. I would rather pick later in this, to be honest with you. I'd rather have back-to-back picks because I feel better about the field. So
me too.
I'm fine not picking number 1, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'd rather get in the meat and potatoes.
I actually am as well because, it's just so many that can win this season. So anyway, big deviation there, but just want to let you know, if you are interested in the TV show Survivor and you do like to have that immediate reaction right after an episode, well, we do that after every episode. We started up again last week and had a great time. Brett was actually on assignment, so we had the Steven from Survivor Quotes X who joined us as a fill-in host, but Brett will be back and should be back for the rest of the season. So looking forward to that and talking all about it. So 1:30 live drafts and about 9:40 tonight with a little ambient lighting. We will join you for Survivor Season 50, Episode 2 recap show after the show, immediate reaction. So that's going to be a blast. All right, back to sports here, Boy Green. All right, let's dig in on some of this Jets-Giants stuff. Bills not really much in the news because not a lot happening with the Bills at this particular point. So let's do Breece Hall first. I know you talked about it, I'm sure, on your morning show today. But your thoughts? I mean, are you glad, first of all, that Breece Hall is not going anywhere? Maybe we start with that.
Yes. I've said it for... as I was going to say months, but I don't know if it's been months, but whatever it is, I've been saying it for a long time that I wanted the Jets to franchise tag Breece Hall. They had 3 choices: not exclusive, exclusive, or transition. And there was a lot of rumors they were going to transition him. And I was like, I don't love that because you potentially could lose him for nothing if a team poison pills the contract on an offer sheet. So for me, I wanted to franchise tag him to ensure I had all options on the table. I could eventually tag and trade him if as they're talking right now by all insider reporting, they're trying to work out an extension. If they can't and things hit a snag, I have the ability to tag and trade him to whoever I want, whenever I want. So I love that. I can have him play out this year and just say, you know what, let's play out this year and I'll kick the can down the road to next year. Then we can figure it out there.
Okay.
Or you work out a long-term deal. So yes, this franchise tag the Jets chose was a little more expensive, $14.3 million versus $11.3 million. Cost them a little bit more, But the Jets aren't penny pinching. They have the 4th most cap space in the league now that they've done this franchise tag. Before the franchise tag, they had the 3rd most cap in the league. So I didn't want to get cute. I love this decision. This is exactly what the New York Jets should have done, and they did it. I love it.
Yeah. You want to get him signed to a long-term deal now? Would that be the preference here, to get him locked in for the next 3 years, let's say, versus let's see how Breece plays, what kind of roster we put together this year, and then we decide, mid-season, right after the season, whether we want to give him the long-term deal. Which way would you rather play it if you were Jets management?
Yeah, so I'm no longer worried about I need to see more before I give a long-term deal.
I feel like you've seen enough.
Yeah, I've seen enough from that perspective. The only thing is that if the Jets could find a way to tag and trade him and I ended up with Jeremiah Love, that would be, as a Notre Dame fan, that would be incredibly exciting. But there's so much risk involved. Where do you trade back to get him? You were talking about the Chiefs and how much they would love Jeremiah Love. I'm seeing every mock draft since the combine. He's going top 3. He's going top 4. He's going top 5. I don't think the Chiefs have a chance at him anymore, to be honest. So that's the complicated thing. If you're the Jets, you're like, let's try to trade back and get this. For me, unfortunately, that is too complicated. So what I would do is I would extend Breece Hall. He's 24 years old. I give him a 3-year deal. It works out for both sides. He gets to hit the market again when he's 27, which is a great age for a running back. We get a dynamic playmaker, hopefully, for the next 3 years. So I would sign him and hopefully sign him soon. I don't know if I would wait out for these other running back markets. Jahmyr Gibbs is eligible for an extension. Kenneth Walker is going to get a bag in free agency. The Jets may hurt themselves if they wait for those deals to go through, and those deals are a lot. Then the Jets are like, son of a gun, and Breece Hall and his agent are like, ooh, yeah, whatever we were talking about before, now add this.
Because he's comparable. He's comparable with those guys. So then, the price
not Gibbs, but the other, Kenneth.
Yeah, sure. Right. You're right. But I agree. And the price always goes up. It never goes down. I call it the Jerry Jones syndrome, because Jerry Jones does it constantly. Waits, and then gets killed. All right. And Dak Prescott is living, breathing proof. Of course. To me, Dak's a wonderful quarterback, but they overpaid for him. They overpaid for him badly. And what do they have to show for it? Nothing. Now they've had to renegotiate his contract just to try to create some money under the cap so they can do some things here in free agency and going forward. The longer you wait, always the more you pay. So if you know you're going to pay the guy, just pay him now.
Yeah.
Right? Pay him now, because today's highest paid guy is tomorrow's second highest paid guy.
Yeah,
That's
right.
the way it goes. It's moving that fast in sports, particularly in the NFL. And the guaranteed money is becoming more and more and more and more. So now you don't even have the option of, if a guy's hurt or if you decide to move off a guy, now you're stuck with all this dead cap money and you got to pay people. It's just, but that's where the league is going, man. So the sooner you get guys signed, the more affordable they're going to be, whether you think it or not. That's really the truth of the matter.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of the market topping out because, Saquon's making over $20 million. Christian McCaffrey's at like $19 million. I'm not afraid those are outliers, so I don't think this current market is going to touch that. Again, franchise tag for Breece Hall is $14.3 million, which is $5-6 million less than the top of the market. So I don't think it's going to get that crazy. But still, if Kenneth gets $15 million or something, like all of a sudden the Breece negotiations take a pivot. Now, if Kenneth undersells and he gets like $13 million, now the Jets are like, aha. Sweet. It works out, but that's a risky game to play.
Definitely a risky game to play. And you don't have any interest in Mekhi Becton, I got to believe, right? I know you're toying around with that, right? But you don't have any interest in him.
I do not. Now, when he was with the Jets, they asked him to play guard, and he tweeted out, "I'm an offensive tackle," then deleted it, and there was all kinds of drama. And he was unwilling to move to any other positions. He gets dumped by the Jets, and he immediately goes to Eagles, and then they tell him sternly, you're playing guard, you're not playing. And he went, okay, I guess I'll play guard. And he won a Super Bowl and had success and got paid a lot of money by the Chargers before he just got cut. So, someone mentioned it earlier, it might have been Indy, might have been Dirty, whoever you feel about it. Him at guard, I guess, could be an option because the Jets are looking for a left guard, but there's just too much drama. When he was with the Eagles, he complained just with the Chargers before he got cut. He was complaining about how he was being coached. There's just too much baggage there. So yeah, I am all out on Mekhi Becton.
Yeah, me too. No, I won't touch him with a 10 football. All right. And on the Giants side of things, so the Bobby Okereke cut, is that one cut deep, Boy Green? I'm okay with it, to be honest with you. They got a big fat hole in the middle of their defense. So I kind of think, I wonder if that's where they're going in the draft instead of going, for the safety. Are they maybe considering a guy like Styles or somebody in the middle of the defense, at the second level rather than the third level? Because that's kind of what Okereke did. He had a ton of tackles last year, but definitely his production, it just doesn't seem like he's the same player. Had a lot of love, a lot of respect for the guy, but he played on bad defense for the last few years. So they're really, somebody had to make the tackles, and he was out there making them. But I think that they can do better either in the draft or consider some of the other options in free agency. I know it's been bandied about a little bit about the former Bill, his name's escaping me right now.
Tremaine Edmonds.
Tremaine Edmonds
Which could be a trade situation.
Could that be right? Could that be a trade situation? And maybe even, with a couple of the pieces that the Giants are thinking about moving right now, including Thibodeau, could that be a trade in the works potentially where you could just swap those two guys?
Interesting.
You get a position of need. All right. And even if you think Thibodeau's a little bit better player, so what? You're filling a hole that you don't have to now go draft. Okay, or go find in free agency and pay somebody else. You just do the old swapperoo. I don't know exactly how the money works on that one. Although Thibodeau, like I said, it's $14 million. That's going bye off the cap. So I'm not sure what the cost is on the Edmonds side of things and how that would affect the Giants' payroll. But that'd be an interesting thing, I guess, I would look at before I'd say, hey, that's a good idea to do something like that. But I do think the Giants are going to try to move off of Thibodeau. It seems pretty obvious. I mean, they're kind of like halfway denying, but, all the scuttlebutt from any of the insiders out there that follow what's going on in the trade wins, particularly there at the Combine, was saying Thibodeau's name was being floated around quite a bit. So it does look like the Giants are going to try to move him.
I pulled up the Tremaine Edmonds contract. It's actually a near match. His base salary for this upcoming season is $13.9 million, and he's in the last year of his deal. So that could be a straight up swap for basically the same money. It could be.
Okay. All right. Interesting there. All right. So you get a position of need. I don't know. I'm not thrilled about it. I haven't really followed Edmonds really closely.
Whoa.
Uh-oh, breaking news. Breaking news during our show. Our live shows are like famous for breaking news. You double checking this? What's going on?
No. Here we go. I'm making sure we play this.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
The Kansas City Chiefs are deep in talks to trade star quarterback Trent McDuffie to the Los Angeles Rams for the number 29th overall pick in the first round and additional compensation. McDuffie would get a new deal as part of the trade. It's funny. The Rams just said yesterday, it was their general manager, Les Snead. He, a couple of years ago, he had the F them pick shirt. And like, hey, man, I'm trying. Who cares? Because the Rams went like a decade without making a first-round pick. They were trading them all. So it's funny that comment came out and people said, ooh, what could that mean? Like, hey, screw the draft, which we think may be weak, and let's go get a proven player, and let's try to win another Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. So Trent McDuffie, star corner from the Chiefs. And the Chiefs did this a couple years ago when they traded away L'Jarius Sneed to the Titans. So they've done this a few times instead of paying their guy and letting someone else pay. So it looks like Trent McDuffie is about to be a member of the Los Angeles Rams. Breaking news.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, so does that make the Kansas City Chiefs, again, just, doing a little chess here, moving the pieces around the board? Okay, so theoretically, if this trade is made, now the Chiefs have 2 first-round picks, right? Their pick at 9, and now would you say pick 26 or 29?
29.
29? All right, so does that make the Chiefs' ability, all right, does that create a more of an ability for the Chiefs to now move up and go get the thing that they covet, which I think is Love. I think they really want to get him. And I think they're sitting at 9 going, oh man, we're going to get skunked. If one of the teams, in the top 6 don't skunk us, we'll get skunked at 8 by New Orleans, who will grab him, and we'll have been 1 pick away from getting this guy. So now with 2 first-rounders, now you could theoretically go up and make a trade with, say, someone like the Giants who sit at 5, right? And then what's the offer back? Well, you give the Giants 2 picks for 1, and you get to move up those slots and maybe assure that you get Jeremiah Love. Because I don't know that anybody above 5 is going to take Love. I just don't see it in the needs, and I just don't think it's going to happen. But once you get past that, it kind of is like, okay, that could happen with some of these other teams.
Well, 2 mock drafts have had Jeremiah Love going 3rd overall and 4th overall. Dane Brugler had that this morning in his piece. So you may be surprised with how far they go. I think you don't want to buy it because you want to be the beneficiary of this trade, which would make a lot of sense.
Of course, yeah, but I just don't buy that someone's going to pick him at 2 or 3 or 4. Where are you saying 2, 3, or 4? The Jets aren't picking him now that they have.
No, not 2, 3 or 4. It'd be Tennessee yes, the 2 teams are right. I just said them in the incorrect order. 3 with Arizona or 4 at Tennessee. I've seen him mocked to both of those teams this week, but I just did the math real quick on the NFL draft value chart. So apparently the Chiefs would get more than just the first round pick of the Rams. More is coming, but they're trying to get those details in. But let's just use that pick for now. So 9th overall pick and the 29th overall pick is worth 1,990 points, 1,990. Now, according to the NFL draft value chart, that could get them as high as the 4th overall pick or the 5th overall pick. So Titans, Giants, it's not enough to get the 3rd overall pick.
Okay.
But the question is would a team be willing to move? Like, okay, that technically apparently can only get you up to like the 4th or 5th overall pick. But would a team like the Jets say, hey, I know that that's not an equal fair value with our trade, but we'd be willing to do it because we want the picks. So they take a little less to make that deal happen. That'd be interesting. So according to the points, the maximum, the highest they could get to is Tennessee with just those 2 picks. Of course, they could add more picks to move up. So interesting. You say use these picks to move up to go get Love.
I mean, let's talk about the Cardinals for a second. See, the Cardinals could take him at 3. The Cardinals have needs all over the place. Why the heck are they taking a running back at 3? I mean, he's a absolutely tempting specimen, and anybody could take him based on his talent. Period.
Yeah,
they have so many needs. Why would they take a running back of all positions? That makes no sense at all to me. So I have to X them off. Sorry about insiders out there that say that. I just don't buy that at all. Yeah. All right. So that just leaves Tennessee. I don't know. I haven't done a draft profile on Tennessee, but is Tennessee? Are they in great need for a running back right now?
They are in great need of a running back, but it goes to your point. I would just say this in a general sense. All these teams at the top of the draft have a million needs. That's why they're at the top of the draft. They stink.
That's the truth.
So,
we all stink out there. We stink, you stink, we all stink.
Right, 100%. So it's it's not an ideal situation from that perspective. But I am curious though if that is the play behind the play. You make a move to make another move.
Here's one. William throws this one out. How about if the Jets, all right, if they really want to, if they want to make sure no one gets Love, okay, and they could go all the way up to 2, and then they could do 9, 29, and 40 with the Chiefs.
Let me do my quick math.
Picks. I mean, I bet you that's going to calculate in your little calculator there that makes sense that you could take those 3 picks, 9, 29, and 40, and that would equal number 2, Now, do the Jets want to have all those picks, or the maneuverability, dare I say, of all those picks? That would be
So according to the calculations, the Jets' number 2 pick is still worth more than 9, 29, and 40, according to the math. Yeah, the math ends up being 2,490 points. The number 2 overall pick is worth 2,600 points. But again, if I'm the Jets, I'd be willing to take a little less to get more picks because you still have 16, you have 33, and you have 44. So you're telling me I'd have 9, 16, 29, 33, 40, and 44. There'd be 6 picks inside the top 44. Woo! If the Chiefs are willing to do that,
if the Jets made that trade, that makes the Jets swing at a quarterback sting a lot less. Like if they do want to go for the Alabama kid, if they want to go for Simpson, then with all those picks, somewhere along that line, you get him. All right,
take a gamble. Why not?
Because you've got other. You've got all these other picks to land other positions on the team, these places that you have to fill. If indeed that was the guy they were high on, or if it's somebody beyond him, now I think you could do that somewhere in the 2nd round, and now you'd have 3 second-round picks. I mean, one at the end of the 1st, and then 3 in the 2nd. I mean, that gives you just a ton of versatility to go get whatever guy, whatever potential quarterback you covet. Outside, of course, of the one that's going to go number 1.
I mean, that would be exciting. So William Ameley, and yes, all the picks you would get from that would be a lot of fun. I don't know if the Chiefs are pushing all their chips into the middle, or do they want the multiple picks so they can hit multiple needs? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's surprising me. 9, 29, and 40 is not worth what 2 is worth. Wow. That's
draft value chart
to me. Okay, so that's just a raw draft value chart. But then the other thing that I would throw in the blender here is that 2, you could argue this year that 2 is worth less than it normally is worth because there's only one quarterback on the board at 1. You know what I mean? So 2 is usually a very valuable position because it's usually a team that covets a quarterback,
All right.
And now you don't have to do that.
The full details are in, so
Okay,
I
throw it
guess
out there,
do
yep.
this again.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, we're listening.
Okay, the NFL's NFL insider Diana Rossini of The Athletic says the Rams are giving up 4 picks to the Kansas City Chiefs for Trent McDuffie. They're giving up the 29th overall pick. That's in the first round. A 5th rounder this year, a 6th rounder this year, and a 3rd rounder in the 2027 NFL draft. So 4 picks. Again, a 1st, a 5th, a 6th, and a 3rd in exchange for Trent McDuffie. That is the full details of the trade. Trent McDuffie, for those who don't know, a star, very talented cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs, is now headed to the Rams. Now, this should all be noted. The new league year does not officially kick off until a week from today at 4:00. So this trade cannot become official until that point, and physicals must be passed, but that is all expected to go through. So 4 picks for Trent McDuffie. Wow.
Okay.
What a haul. Nice.
It's not bad.
Pretty
The
good
Rams,
haul.
the Rams are totally in win now mode.
Of course.
You know that they're trying to. I mean, they almost squeezed one out of Stafford last year. You know, and he is going to come back apparently. So they're going to try. I mean, they're going to take one more swing here at the Pinata this year. I mean, they're on the precipice. They've proven it. They're right there.
They would have beaten the Patriots if the Rams beat the Seahawks and the Rams are in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. I think the Rams beat the Patriots with a wrench, just like Seattle did. And I think they would have won the Super Bowl. So
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. So then why not take one, take another swing here before Stafford hangs him up? Because I don't know after this year. I mean, that guy's taking a beating, man. When he was in Detroit, I mean, he was just regularly getting pummeled. And so, he's a wonderful quarterback, but man, he took a lot of hits. And he's still really good, but one more might be it. And this might be it. This might be the last one of him at a highly functioning level. And then we see that fall off like we've seen with guys like Rodgers and some of the others. You just see like, okay, the wheels aren't quite the same, a couple of hits and the guys, not quite yanking them down the field the way they used to, so on and so forth. So.
Yeah. Wow. This is, man, I love it. Lurch, we're in the thick of the NFL offseason now. We're blockbuster trades like this.
Quickly over to Kyler Murray for a minute, because he has to be a point of discussion for your Jets, whether you like him or not. And I know a lot of Jet fans don't like him, and I don't blame you. I can't figure it out. I can't figure out whether he's worth a gamble or not. The reason that I say he could be worth a gamble is because the price will be absolutely minimal. All right. Mm-hmm. So that's tempting when you can get a guy who has talent, and he has talent. Okay. You can't deny that he has talent. But I think the bigger question here for the Jets is he a fit? Does he make sense now, in this moment, at this moment, despite the fact that he's cheap? So the cheap thing is like one reason to say, let's just do this. Wow, we don't even worry about it. We still got all this money, and look, we can still go crazy in the draft and crazy in free agency and really try to put a good roster together, That's a reason to do it. But then do you trust this guy at all? Is it the right time to bring a guy like this who has talent but maybe isn't a system fit? And then the few things that we do know about Frank Reich is that he does tend to like bigger guys. He's done it with a pocket and a non-pocket guy, so we can't categorize him one way or the other. But he does tend to like guys that have size, and that's the one thing that Kyler Murray doesn't have, the size.
It's true. Here it is from Fox Sports earlier today. This was what Boy Green Daily was about this morning. The Jets
take him, huh?
The Jets are the betting favorites to land Kyler Murray, who was informed yesterday he will be released on the first day of the new league year, which again is a week from today. And to your point, because of the $36.8 million that is guaranteed to him for the season, no matter what happens, he will sign his next deal, whether it's with the Jets or any of these teams on this list, for $1.3 million, the veteran minimum you can get a quarterback in here. He's 28. He's a former number 1 overall pick. I know there is baggage, and if you're a team, you have to explore the baggage and see if it's real or not. Because
where you at as of this moment? Where are you?
I would sign him.
You would, huh?
I would add him to the pile. I would. He's again a former number 1 overall pick. If he has, so every year his career average for rushing yards in a season is around 400 rushing yards. If he has that average this season, this is an unbelievable stat. He will be inside the top 10 of rushing yards all time for a quarterback. That's how dynamic Kyler Murray has been. He's been one of the most dynamic rushing quarterbacks in NFL history. His numbers have been really good. Now, unfortunately, in 2 of the last 3 seasons, he has missed significant time, appearing in 5 and 8 games in 2 of the last 3 years. Now, he had a season in between where he played a full season, all 17 games. So there are durability concerns. He's a smaller guy, so you have to work an offense and cater it specifically to his needs. But the Jets, you're desperate. Let's be honest. Let's call it how we see it.
No doubt.
Are we going to throw Are we going to throw rocks from our glass house? Say, I'm not sure if he's a perfect fit. Guess what, Jets? Your quarterback room freaking sucked last year. Brady Cook, Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor. You need an upgrade. Kyler would be an upgrade over that room. So is there warts? Of course. There's warts on any of these quarterbacks the Jets could possibly want. Yeah. At this moment in time, I'm willing to take the risk.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way these days for you. I just like the options that you have to. You can say no to everything, but then those are the only options. So which option is it going to be? And if one of the options, on top of it being a reasonable swing, is also cheap, that makes the option just that much more appetizing to me.
Here's another option. This broke during the show. Not worth playing Anchorman again, but. Apparently, this would be another veteran minimum move because of fully guaranteed money. The Jets, according to Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network, have been doing work on Tua Tagovailoa, making calls about him. He would be cut next week, too. Same thing on the first day of the new league year. And his next place he would go would be signing for the veteran minimum. So that just came out from Mike Garafolo in the middle of the show. And I'm like, ugh. But at the same time, again, am I throwing rocks from a glass house? A couple of years ago, Tua led the NFL in passing yards. That's pretty good. Have we had that? No. So, again, there's all kinds of problems with him. Concussion issues. He got his leadership called into question this past season with the dysfunctional situation down there in Miami. He sucks in cold weather, so I don't know why he would be trying to come up here outside of giving it to the Dolphins twice a year, if that's some motivation for him. So, yeah, apparently the Jets are doing homework. So, Jet fans, you got to come to the reality that our quarterback
what the homework is on, what the options are. I wouldn't touch Tua. I would take a swing on Murray, I think, but I would not touch Tua. I don't know. The concussions scare me too much. The last couple of years, he just didn't look like a guy that I would want running my offense as my starter. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think I could do that on Tua. I think he's a great character guy, but he's just not a great player. All the things that were said about him in college, and tank for Tua, and everybody thought he was going to be a lock. I mean, and he's been fine, but but not anything what we thought. The expectations were way too high for what he ended up becoming. But Murray, I still think there's gas in the tank if he's motivated. The question, of course, is he motivated, and does he fit? I mean, is he a guy that sits today and says, if I get a chance as a starter for, say, the New York Football Jets, am I like, is he saying in his own mind, this is my chance to rebuild my career? This is my chance to prove everybody who, is a hater out there wrong. This is my chance to show that I'm absolutely, that kind of talent. I think that's what you hope his mindset is if he's going to be your quarterback. And if it was, all things could really go right. It could go really much better than we think. But it's a swing. It's a swing. And I don't know. I don't know if I trust it, but again, the options. What are the options?
And also, I would tell the Jets to look in a mirror. They have a terrible history of developing quarterbacks and being a quarterback, whatever the word is. But here's the other thing. I think the Jets are actually a favorable situation. When you look at their offensive line is pretty set. Breece Hall's under the franchise tag. You have Garrett Wilson. Mason Taylor was a top 50 pick at tight end. And you have $75 million in cap space and 4 picks inside the top 44. If you're a quarterback, I understand the normal, the Jets, ghosts, demons, curses, all that stuff. But if you take a step back, go, you know what? It's not too shabby, plus everything else. So, again, if you're one of these guys, you're Tua, you're Kyler, you're Geno, whoever, those are the kind of guys that have guaranteed money on their contract, so they're signing for veteran minimum with some team. You say for 1 year, I can boost up my stock and if I save the Jets, I get bonus credit, and I either stay with the Jets for the next couple of years or I secure a bag with someone else. I think there's a compelling case to be made.
Yeah, I think there is too. Oh boy. A lot
going on.
Oh man, you got anything else on your docket today, man? Pretty pumped. We got a busy day today, man. We have the Survivor draft. We have the Survivor show late tonight. We're talking with Jake Asman today.
Yes.
So that interview will drop this afternoon for all you Jets nuts. We're going to break it down with him. He was at the Combine, so we'll talk to him about some of those Combine performances and also obviously about Breece Hall and this quarterback situation that continues to swirl and where he stands on the whole thing. What is the least ugly of the ugly ducklings that are out there? Let's put it that way. A lot of ugly ducklings. Which one is the least ugly of the ugly ducklings?
That's really it. So, no, we have a very busy day today, so I can't wait. Again, you mentioned it. We have the Jake Asman interview coming up. We have our Survivor Fantasy draft coming up for Season 50. That's live at 1:30, so you'll have some bonus content, folks. So you tune in live at 1:30. The Jake Asman interview will be pre-recorded, so you guys will catch that as soon as it gets uploaded. And then later tonight, a little after 9:30, we'll have the recap of Episode 2, so you guys can check all that out. And both of those interviews will be in our Inside the Survivor playlist. Our fantasy draft, if you miss it, you can rewatch it at a different point. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun. Very busy day, Lurch.
All right. Busy it is. Okay. All right. Well, look, we're going to get after it on this very, very busy day. Again, for anybody out there right now watching, please click that subscribe button before we say goodbye at MC Show Digital there. That's our handle on YouTube. If you're already a subscriber and you want to support the channel, you can see the scrolling ticker below. You can now be a member and get some membership perks. Very, very cool. Some big announcements coming on the show next week. I won't divulge what they are, but they're coming your way. So be ready for some cool, fun announcements. We're doing a lot of work behind the scenes on some items, and we'll divulge next week. But Jake Asman today, Survivor today. We'll go inside the Bills on Thursday morning, tomorrow morning, and we're back on the beam with NBA and SU coverage. A couple of SU-related videos this week. We're going to be talking with Mike Waters, the esteemed reporter who covers as beat reporter for the Syracuse basketball team. We haven't talked to Mike yet this season. We're going to get his whole breakdown on the Adrian Autry situation and where Syracuse goes from here. By the way, for those of you that follow that, you know that Syracuse hired a new chancellor yesterday, or they promoted a guy that was already right down the hallway, and he moved into the bigger office. And by the way, Boy Green, I've already been, dare I say, taking a peek at the new chancellor and what he's had to say, because, of course, you know, you get accept a position like that, you start doing the press conferences and so on and so forth. I like what I hear. This guy's got some personality. He is the opposite of Kent Severud, who was like watching paint dry on the wall when you heard him speak or do anything. But this guy's been around. He's a big Syracuse sports fan. And talked about in his opening Salve press conference, when you're supposed to be talking about, like, you know, the academics at Syracuse University and how we're going to move forward and build things, big buildings, and build great infrastructure for our wonderful student body. And what was he saying? You know, we are Syracuse because of that basketball and football team. You know, and I really like those guys. That's what he was saying. I was like, yeah, all right, we got ourselves a sports chancellor. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out with the chancellor, who's going to have, obviously, as part of his agenda here coming up, hiring a new athletic director, because they've got an outgoing athletic director who's only going to be sitting in the seat until July 1st. But they need to get that moving forward, and they may be making a coaching change as well. So a lot going on at Syracuse University, and the chancellor, obviously, right at the head of that snake. There you go.
Yeah, thank you to Indy. Great show, you guys. William Aimley, I see that. Have a great day, everybody. Very nice. And again, let's also give Lurch, can you give a shout out to our guest from earlier in the show?
Yes, between the hash marks, not inside the hash marks or between the hashtags. It is between the hash marks, and it is our good friend Matt Lombardo on Substack. Fantastic. All right, Matt, I'm sorry. I love you, man. You know I love you. All right. Okay. All right. That'll do it here for our live show. Again, lots of content coming your way, so pay attention on the channel. Make sure you hit that notification thing as well so that you find out when we're dropping stuff, because we've got good stuff. And if you want to join us live, again, Survivor 1:30, Survivor about 9:40 tonight. All right. So a little different flavor, but you can join us for those two items. All right. That'll do it for now. We'll see you, folks. Take care. Thanks for tuning in.